Show respect, step back, no need for space invasion. Stop saying your room number at the day's end. Let the girl dance, that's really all she came for. $1 million dress probably came from the thrift store. Even though she seems to be exactly what you wish for, she's never coming in on your transistor. Don't matter if you're rich or piss poor, she's out of your league and in a different sport. The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. No creeping allowed though, you just get a glance. Don't try to swing game, yo, just let the girl dance. The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. You can watch a slow flow from a distance, but give her some bass on, let the girl dance.
Hey everybody, I'm Randy Silvis.
And I'm Tony Mollick.
Welcome back to Slotrods and welcome to the exciting conclusion of the 4th annual Halloween Shootout.
Tonight is the final shootout. The 36 remaining cars will race single elimination until we have a winner.
And here are your races for round 1. These are without a doubt 36 of the fastest cars we have.
The Mach 5, the Batmobile, and Banshee all fought their way out of the loser's bracket.
And that means that they have more passes on their cars than any of their 33 counterparts,
which you would think would give them a bit of an advantage.
Our first race is going to be Keith Bean in GetX versus Big Daddy Kane in Son of Troublemaker.
GetX was first off the line and he was still leading at camera 2.
But SOT comes around him in the last 100 feet.
Round 1, race 2, we have the Dark Phoenix versus the Hairy Olds.
Not that loss.
Dark Phoenix took off like a shot.
And the Hairy Olds shot out of the slot and was riding on his driver's side wheels by the time he crossed the finish line.
Dark Phoenix for the win. Round 1, race 3, Fireball versus 911.
Number 3. Annette, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, she wasn't that ready because the Fireball got a car length on her before she left the line.
She looked like she was going to come around to Fireball, but that Camaro grabbed the scramble button and retook the lead in the last 100 feet.
Race 4, the GTO from the 724 called Jackalope versus the GTO from Motown called Vengeance.
Jackalope got out 60-footed, and he had no chance of reeling him back in.
Round 1, race 5, the Cooper called Mini-Me versus the El Camino called Flip.
If you know, you know.
Ready.
Mini-Me got out first and stretched out the El Camino for the win.
Round 1, race 6, the big bad blown 65 El Camino called the Tazinator versus the rear engine monster Mopar called Hose Clamp.
Camera 3.
Tazinator knocked the tires loose and that was all it took to give Hose Clamp the lead.
Tazinator managed to reel him back into about a half a car, but he just ran out of real estate.
Race 7, the Gen 3 Camaro called Morrow versus Randy in his Ford GT.
Yes.
GT dug in and took off for me. It gave me about 2 car lengths on the Camaro.
And the Camaro could not close the gap.
Right lane.
Race 8, 51 Chevrolet from the 724 called Slick Trick versus the Gen 1 Firebird called Warbird. Man, Slick Trick's running better than she ever has.
She's got a whole new setup, and I'm just breaking her in. Hope she's got a couple more passes like that in her.
Round 1, race 9, Scout Rages from Motown versus Killer Nova from the 412.
What happened?
It's forward.
Ready.
Scout Rages got off to a quick lead and then got loose around camera 2. Come off the track and lost power.
Giving the Killer Nova a free pass to the win.
Round 1, race 10, the Eliminator versus Exodia.
Hold it like the Statue of Liberty, Rob, we're racing.
I'm ready.
Exodia left the Eliminator at the starting line and never looked back.
Race 11, Keith Bean in the Cannonball versus Mark Rendos in Armageddon.
Camera 1 is rolling. Camera 2. Rolling. Camera 3. Okay.
Yep.
Cannonball off to a clean start.
And Armageddon goes nose over elbows and flips over the cliff.
Mike does an excellent job of jumping out of the way.
Come on, Mike, you play baseball. You know how to catch a grounder.
I love how he looked so pleased with his reaction time.
Round 1, race 12, the Henry J. Gasser called Great Gas versus the Kai Kelly tribute car called Jangalang.
This race is obviously before Jangalang got that pretty black paint job.
Now that's a drag race.
That cold weather was knocking the tires loose on a lot of these cars.
And that's what happened to Great Gas. It knocked him out of the slot, and that cost him the race. I keep telling these guys, single file's not the way you're supposed to finish a race.
Race 13, the first of our survivors from the losers bracket, Banshee versus Blah X3.
Camera 3. Yep.
Blah X3 got off to the early lead
Banshee was closing the gap at camera 2.
and comes around BX3 on the big end for the win.
Race 14, our second survivor from the losers bracket, the Mach 5 versus the Bad Man from the 412.
Camera 3. Yep.
Looks like the Mach 5's getting traction about every other race.
And this time it managed to get traction and it held on for the win.
Round 1, race 15, Frankenberry versus Nightmare.
And Frankenberry just fishtailed his way into a loss. Race 16, the Chevelle called Smurf versus the last of our survivors from our losers bracket, the Batmobile.
I don't know if it's the weather or Rob's tires, but the 412 cars, they're fishtailing a lot.
Round 1, race 17, the Heretic versus Mazzy.
Camera 3. Drivers. Yep.
Massey took the 60 foot, but here comes the Heretic around on the big end, and he even put a gap on Massey.
Our last race of round 1 gives us SOB versus Calvary.
Camera 3. Drivers.
SOB's getting faster with every pass, and Calvary just didn't have enough.
And here are your winners from round 1.
And here are your races for round 2. And up first is a couple of our TLAs.
TLAs?
They're the cars with names so big, they need to be reduced to 3-letter acronyms.
Nice.
On camera 2. Over camera 3.
Son of Troublemaker comes out of the slot, losing power right off the starting line.
Race 2, the Heretic versus Exodia.
And Exodia is getting faster with every pass. Seems like the cold weather's messing with some cars more than the others.
And the Heretic comes out of the slot and loses power at the halfway point.
Race 3, Slick Trick versus Hose Clamp.
As with every other Motown car, Hose Clamp was off to the early lead, and Slick Trick just couldn't close the gap.
If you go back and look, you spun tire at the line. Cole claims another victim.
Round 2, race 4, Vengeance versus Cannonball.
Cannonball didn't come off the line like he usually does.
I think I can tell you the common thread through all of this.
What's that?
Only the cars running quick, slick tires have retained traction all day.
Race 5, Mini-Me versus Banshee.
And Mini-Me was sleeping.
Wow, that video looks dark.
I just wanted to show everybody what the video I was working with really looked like before I started putting effects on it.
You had to brighten all those videos individually.
Well, here's what the finished version looks like. It's a little grainy, but I was able to create daylight.
And the cold creates another problem. This time for Mini-Me, she crossed the finish line, but not under power.
Race 6, the Batmobile versus Nightmare.
That race went to the car with the best 60 foot, and that was Nightmare.
Race 7, Randy and his GT versus the Fireball Camaro.
And the GT made the best pass it ever made for me.
And again, the best 60-foot won the race.
Here's an ominous sounding race. Dark Phoenix versus the Killer Nova.
They came off the line together and the Dark Phoenix got the immediate lead.
By the time they got to the finish line, Killer Nova was ahead by 2 cars.
Our last race of the round pits the Mach 5 against Jangalang.
You picked the wrong race with the wrong car to be sleeping at the line. And he beat you by how much he left you at the line by.
Now we move to round 3. Hose Clamp draws the bye and gets a free ride to the final 5.
It's nut cutting time.
And you got the roughest race of the round, my friend.
Well, not for a while. First up, we have SOB versus Exodia. All right, dude, what happened? That wasn't the usual SOB run. That bat had no top end.
Well, when we fished it out of the catch bin, we found out why that was SOB's worst pass of the night. When I raced Son of Troublemaker, I managed to get a win, but I also managed to bend a front axle in the catch bin.
Well, might as well had one square wheel on the front end then.
Pretty much. That's drag racing.
Race 2, Nightmare versus the Killer Nova.
That Killer Nova best be quick on the button.
And he was. Killer Nova got the jump.
But Nightmare stretched him out on that second half of the quarter mile for the win.
Race 3, Jangalang versus Banshee.
Jangalang makes a hell of a pass, knocking Banshee out of the competition.
Well, here's that race you were talking about. Me and my GT versus Jake and Vengeance. Ooh, I know I got him off the light.
But he just had a little too much power out the backside.
Here's your final 5.
And here are your semifinal races. Nightmare versus Exodia, Jangalang versus Hose Clamp, and Vengeance draws the most superfluous bye of the evening.
First up, Nightmare versus Exodia.
And Nightmare finally met his match, Exodia for the win.
It was pretty much pitch black out by this time.
Yeah, and it was getting colder out by the minute.
Our last race of the semifinals, Jangalang versus Hose Clamp.
And Jangalang was caught sleeping at the line. Once he got off the line, he stuck the tires so hard that he crossed center at about the 100-foot mark and hit Hose Clamp.
I don't know how Hose Clamp didn't come out of the slot, but he held his ground, and he even kept Jangalang from going over the cliff.
And they finished single file.
Which brings us to the final shootout. And since Vengeance and Hose Clamp have both had buys, they will race each other, and Exodia will race the winner for all the marbles.
First up, Vengeance versus Hose Clamp.
Hose Clamp got the jump, but he just couldn't keep the lead.
Which brings us to our final race of the event, Vengeance versus Exodia.
Now that's a great start.
But unfortunately, the cold weather claims another victim. Exodia comes out of the slot and barrel rolls his car down the track.
That was an excellent final race, right up until Exodia left the track.
And the winner of the 4th annual Halloween Shootout is Jake in Vengeance. And now let's go to the winner's circle.
Winner of the 4th annual Halloween Shootout is Jake Rendos with Vengeance. Hang on to that trophy till next year, kids. Don't lose it.
Well, folks, that puts the wrap on the Halloween Shootout. Why don't you tell the viewers what we have cooking up next?
I'll be glad to. Next time on Slotrods, we'll be starting on our 2nd annual wintertime points chase we call the Underground. But we'll also be introducing a whole new show called Back to the Streets.
Ever since we increased the power and increased our max on the motors from 40K to 50K, people are building cars meant to see how far they can push the boundaries of the rules. So, we decided it was time to get back to our roots. We're naming the current 50K monster slot rods EPM cars.
And that stands for the Experimental Pro Mod Division. And they can run all the crazy high-powered spaceships they want.
But the 724 is going back to what we love and what we started to be, a backyard street car division. So stay tuned and stand by for an announcement for when the Underground and Back to the Streets will be dropping episodes. Until then,
I'm Tony Mollick,
and I'm Randy Silvas,
and you've been watching
Slot Rod.
The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. No sleeping allowed though, you just get a glance. Don't try to swing game, yo, just let the girl dance. The answer is no, you ain't got a chance. She's out of your league, just let the girl dance. You can watch a show blow from a distance, but give her some space, son, let the girl dance.
Now that's a drag race.